usually have a little available. Any other questions?
Bob?
Yeah. Go ahead, Fred.
I don't have specific questions, but I have specific comments that we prepared on the proposed guidelines. So I don't know if there's going to be an opportunity to provide those comments at some point.
Yeah. Who had the, David?
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe we're even talking about this kind of thing. I mean, is this a general consensus meeting or whether or not we want this in our town? Or just to get an idea in advance what you guys want if a big box store came in town?
The question is whether we know one's coming or not, basically, and no, we don't. I mean, it's not, the city, the county, as far as I know, Tom can probably answer that question better than I can. The county's been approached by a large format retailer. You know, the city has not, they've been asked, but there's not been any formal approachment by anybody for a large format retailer. We're just trying to get stuff out, you know, so we have something in place.
It's hard for my wife and I to believe. We moved from Modesto about seven years ago to develop our land, our winery, and moved to a rural area away from all of that. That you even want that in this town. It's such a small community, and I certainly know it doesn't support the majority of local businesses. And when I talk to local people, about 90% say they don't want that. We all moved here knowing that we're going to have to drive 20 miles north or south if we want to go to a Walmart. And so,
No, but someday it will come.
well,
Whether it's now,
another place called Arkansas or Washington, those types of things in advance for setting up lots.
Lodi has quite a few large format retailers right now. And you go out and kick out my land.
But
Yes.
there's a size difference too, or whatever.
Right.
There was.
Kind of piggybacking on all that, you said, oh, well, I can't imagine a parking structure becoming Delaware County. Well, if you're saying even 3-story and higher buildings, you're going to need parking structures. I can't imagine why you would take anything over 2 stories. As it is, 2 stories look out of place. And I wanted to bring my son tonight. He is 8 years old, and he said, on his own, came up with this. Mom, I don't want Walmart here. It's going to turn into a city. I don't like cities. And that's exactly what it's going to look like. You're talking about 1 store here and 1 store there, but you guys, then you open the floodgates. It is coming. And then you got your parking structures, and then you got your 3- and 5-story buildings. You know,
No,
you
the
wanted
parking structure
that.
idea came from when we were just talking, we were doing the Buick Hotel, that for parking downtown, that lot down by past the old Orphan Annie's, the old Angel Street Market to the church center, was looked at as a possibility for the parking structure there for downtown merchants. The 3-story high building, you know, someday again, when it comes, we want to be ready for it. You know, that's the biggest thing, and it's going to come. I mean, you know, you go anywhere now in larger towns, and we're going to get larger. There's multi-story buildings.
And all I'm saying is don't just be like, well, here's the red carpet. or
No, I
we're not
understand,
ready.
and that's what we're not trying to do. I mean, we're not trying to be totally negative against it. We want to be able to control it with our land use and our thoughts of what's going on in the city, what's best for the people of the city of Angels.
Are we talking about a select piece of property inside the city of Angels that's actually zoned for shopping center commercial?
You know, the question is property within the city is for zone for that. North of the town is where it's at. I mean, you know, it happens, it's going to happen.
Very small pieces that can actually handle a large box of money,
Right.
right? Possibly one, maybe 2.
Probably, that's about it, maybe 1, maybe 2. You know, where the lawn center is, that property behind it, I think is 26 acres.
Correct.
That's available. What's gonna come along when the bypass goes through property wise, even though there won't be there won't be access to it off of the bypass, but there'll be some property out there that's gonna be available.
Yeah, but it's a small piece, I actually work on a broker, I work on that piece of land. So outside of that, I don't know. It's the
You know, the one across the street from where I am, you know, there's a piece there across the street from Purpose, now the Country Cafe that's out there, that jumps up and goes back up that way, that's 20-some acres too. But you're right, there's only 2, maybe 3 parcels in the whole city. As the city limits sit today, that could be developed for large format retail. Yeah, Bill.
Bob, I want to commend you and your committee because I come from government, and category versus another. Not down to that, but you need to have just exactly what you're doing, because all of a sudden the population just booms. And this is an ideal area to live in. And so this will be eventually a very, very popular area. And I commend this community for doing it. This is not easy to do. You're looking far into the future, and yet you're looking into tomorrow.
Right. You know,
I'm going to be shocked, but everybody came up here, myself included, because we wanted to be like it was. Shut the door, hold everybody else in. But I also know that my brother was director of public health in one of the other rural counties in California. Rural counties in California have a problem. It's revenue. They don't have enough of it. And it keeps going someplace else. And we need to have what we've seen us with increase in our water price and everything else. And so the issue is we don't want to change, but it's going to happen. So the question really is right now, is how do we do that in a way that allows us to meet the needs of the county budgetary process we receive going south right now, and also meet the needs of the people who want it to be kind of the way it was. And to say we don't want to change is crazy, because the only thing that's consistent in life is change. And we're going to see it more and more. And if we don't control it and let it come to us and we do something about it, say we don't want a big box store here, I'll tell you one thing, eventually it's going to happen. It's going to happen. The question is, how do we want it, what do we want, and how do we want it to come? And if we don't talk about it realistically, we're going to go down the drain. And some of us already feel that way about paying for water and sewer.
you're right, water sewer is very expensive for the city residents anyway. Sir?
The guidelines are all about the physical property, and they're very nice. I like them a lot. My question is, have you considered, or is there a reason you didn't consider employment practices along with the physical guidelines?
The question was about employment practices, and I don't know, as a planning commission, if that's really within our realm. Gary, you might be answering that better. No, I mean, I understand employment practices and whatnot, you know, and if you want to, I got an email the other day on a website called the Big Box Toolkit, and it talks just about that stuff and how much of a burden they are in the social services and the townships and the counties where they come because of the low paying jobs.
Yeah, the Costco takes much better care of its employees than Walmart does.
Right.
Very big differences.
Michelle?
I would like to say two things on a note like this gentleman that Kara just brought up. One of my main concerns is funding. Will it be private funding? Will it be city funding, tax funding, county tax funding? Big dollars here on purchasing land and building shopping centers and infrastructure and parking garages. So that's the first part. Where would the funding be coming from? That should be in here.
The question on where's the funding going to come from? Number one, the funding will be private. You know, the seminar we had last week or Friday for the economic development, Tim Davison got up and said, was Tim Davison, was that his name? Johnson. Never, ever, ever use general funds to promote this type of project. So, that's up to the city fathers to determine that, but no.
So then there needs to be a whole nother group looking at this besides the city council. If it's going to be all private, you need to get a private group involved as well. Because the city can do all it can to put in these guidelines, but then, which is my second point, the services that all of us that have been here for our entire lives and the rest of our families that have been here for our entire lives, we cannot get the services that we want and need here. And to bring up Jan Hubby's point, shopping local, yes, I shop local. I did not vote, but I shop as much as I possibly can local. And the only thing that I cannot buy here is when I buy clothing sometime other than from Turner's or the thrift stores. I buy my freezer from you, I buy stores. And if there were a shopping center, that is what a lot of the locals that have been here for so long have been needing. Because we're forced in some issues, in some instances to go out of town. And I think that's sad.
You know, we do, the questions about retail, being able to buy clothing outside, within the city limits or even in Calaveras County, you're right. I mean, there are needs for retail stores in Calaveras County. I mean, the city of Angels, I mean, with clothing, there's restaurants, there's a
So if we
multitude
need
of different
this, which we've
things.
decided there needs to be a different avenue of private investment talking on how is it
And
going to
that's,
actually
I'll pick
happen.
on Fred because he's sitting over there. He's a developer, that's what he does. These guidelines are to tell him that if he's gonna come in and wants to put a big box store in or a large format retail or anything else, he needs to make sure that they're gonna be the ones paying to upgrade the water, the sewer and all that stuff, but the residents are not gonna do that. We're gonna work with him, but we're not gonna give the farm away. I guess that's the right answer, Fred?
That's the right answer.
Yes, sir.
The cost of going anywhere is enormous. And there's thousands of people in this county who can't afford $70 or $80 to put into their tank to drive to Lodi or Sonora to Jackson to pay the wages of a worker who does not live in our county. 40% of the people in this county go elsewhere to get a job because the jobs aren't here, they're elsewhere.
Correct.
So we're filling up our gas tank to go to drive to all of these places where our people are working so we can pay their salary there and provide the income for those communities, and we need those jobs and services here.
Okay.
And what we need to do is bring that income, tax revenue, and job base back here. Also, as the recreational opportunities expand, the people who are coming up here during the entire course of the year are going to expect some kind of reasonable store, and we don't have one. And we all make out our list and go to Costco or to, wherever, Mervyn's or Gottschalk's, but huge numbers of basic services are not available either for people who live here or reside or visit here.
No, you're right. I mean, I don't know if everybody heard what he was saying about the services that are here. That was a part of that economic development deal too. There was another arm. I was on the retail side of it, but there was another arm on bringing jobs, family sustaining jobs. Large format retailers are not family sustaining jobs. But if you put the number, pencil to it, someone who's driving 100 miles a day round trip to go work out of Calaveras County can take a $20,000 pay cut and be money ahead by staying in the county, and we can get a job that will do that for them. Because it's 50 cents a mile, it's $13,000 a year to commute, and that's net. You got to make $17,000 to have $13,000 to spend. Man in the back, sorry, Michelle.
One of the things that I didn't hear as part of the plan, and I think is important, is that, and my thought is that there are private landowners here. If this happens, in some large retail development comes in there and they choose their there are some landowners that are private landowners that are prosper as a result of that. And I don't see yet a more or less a layout of where these developments might occur that would best serve the city in terms of its transportation and also sustaining the historical part of the town. I'd like to see, as this kind of thing develops, some sites that the city would prefer that would serve the character of the community, and also I'd like to see, as development occurs, some plan that would revive and enhance the community and historical aspect of what we have. And part of my reason for thinking so is that I attended the summit on Friday. I attended the tourism presentation at that summit. We had the state of California and the state of California representative talked about research that the state of California has done in regard to tourists who come to our state, and indicated quite clearly that suited to prosper as a result of this tourism. So I'd like to see that aspect of this community preserved. I think if we do that carefully, if we push this development in the right direction, in the right locations, the community is going to be enhanced, and the small businesses in town are going to see some direct result that will prosper them, as opposed to taking away their livelihood.
The biggest question is on land use, and the city is zoned for different land use factors. The suburban commercial zone, which is at the north end of town, is where a development like this would happen. It wouldn't happen now, you saw the guidelines, it would not happen in a historical district. Number one, there's not any property down there, there's some property, but it's not big enough to support it, and number two is, it's not the zoning for that part of the city. There'd be infill structures going down there. Actually, we're working on one now at the corner of Bragg, and we just approved it at the corner of Bragg and Highway 49 and 4, right just past the Catholic Church. It's gonna be an office building. So there'll be somewhat small, but there will not be any large format retailers or shopping centers that will hit downtown Angels in the historic district. And most of that's all zoned for up at the north end of town.
But I see some of the development that's been happening along Highway 49.
Could you speak louder,
Get for this, but like the new Prudential
Speak up a little
building.
bit louder, sir.
Stand up.
Like the new Prudential building, for example, and some of the other new buildings that have been coming in, they don't really reflect any historical appearance. I love the last picture you showed of the buildings with the stone front and the shed roofs, etc. And I don't see that happening in new buildings that are coming in town that have just been completed in the last 2 years. The area in my mind that needs to be developed aesthetically is the area along Highway 49. I'm not excited about a big community in the grasslands around along the drugstore and out there. I'd like to see some kind of community some kind of development that would work along Highway 49 and bring, more or less lead people into the historical part of town and then enhance the community in terms of its appearance and design. I see the area across from the U.S. Bank, all that vacant area down there leading down towards the town. There's a lot of land area around behind the school, etc. That would be, in my mind, an ideal development site for something properly structured that would enhance the community.
Good point. I wish I could give you an answer on the Prudential building, but I can't, and I wasn't on the commission at the time it was approved. So.
I don't want to insult anybody with that, but, it just doesn't, it's like something I would find down in San Ramon, Danville, etc. It doesn't really fit the community in terms of design as far as I'm concerned.
Leanne, go ahead.
I know that your emphasis is not on the employee base, and that a large format store would provide some job opportunities for people that are traveling out in the community. But has there been any studies done on the immediate impact it would do to a lot of the small family-owned businesses of their employee base? Personally, I'm seeing that employees are staying closer to where they live and their work. They're not traveling as far as they used to because of the cost of travel and that. And do we know what kind of impact this would do to the other small local businesses and drawing away from their employee base?
No, we don't. But it depends on the retail. You can't do that study unless you know what the retailer really is.
Well, you're talking about X number of employees, and do we have the employee base in the immediate area to be able to do that without really affecting the other businesses?
I can give you a number. It's I hope they take the net number, not the gross number. I went to the Sonora meeting on Lowe's when Lowe's was proposed 2 years ago. Lowe's is selling that they're going to be their average store does $34 million a year. They employ 120 people. they're gonna generate X number of dollars in sales tax revenue. Well, you know, that's fine and dandy, but that's not the true number, because you gotta figure out where it's shifting from A to B to get that number. When we are our meeting on Friday, the developer from Martell was there. He said the Lowe's in Jackson, Martell does $800,000 a month. That multiplies to $9.6 million a year. That's a far cry from $34 million a year. You know, so I'm not sure where these guys are coming up with all the numbers, and I would hope, you know, as a planning commissioner, if I'm still on the planning commission at the time, or Tim, the city administrator, or if he's still here, whoever replaces him, or the city council, look at the whole number and say, let's figure out and get down to a net number, not the gross number. Because you're right, it will have an effect on everybody, but I mean, that's the American way, it's competition. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hello, one more thing.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. But, I think there's also two different pictures, and I think that, what you guys are looking at is within the city limit confines of Angels Camp, and what can be done here with the building codes for a shopping center, et cetera, which would employ people, in the high schools and in managerial positions. But I would hope that the county would be looking at other areas of the county to attract larger subsidiary, outlets of larger corporations, I don't know, like eBay or Apple or whomever, some sort of business that would allow people to stay here, whereas our youth, when I went to the presentations of the scholarships, a lot of them were going into computers and going into graphic designing and going into computer game design. And maybe that would be some sort of a business or that we could attract in a different location of Calaveras County, which I would hope that the county would be looking at to keep the locals local, earning a wage that they can live on and stay here.
Well, that's part of the economic development thing that we had on Friday at the development chamber put on, was to get
Whereas
jobs.
I was just stating it because several people had said that bringing in an outlet mall or a box store isn't going to give a wage that people will stay here and raise a family on. So I would hope that the county's looking at areas like that to grow.
That's part of our guidelines, and that's why we said we shared, and, you know, part of it was sharing equity with the county on the sales tax revenue. So
And
hopefully
that's
they will
great.
take the guidelines and once they're fine-tuned and adopt them also, so it's a county and citywide deal. You know, Tuolumne County has a 60,000 square foot limit. The city of Sonora does not. So there's two different entities in the same county fighting each other. You know, so that's why we were proposing, you know, sharing the sales tax and that type of stuff. But you're right, I mean, we need other jobs than retail. Well, that's the next step. Yeah?
I applaud this. I think this is a really nice planning document for the way things should look. I hear people saying that the county needs increased revenue and we need it both from retail and many other sources. I hear people saying that it's inevitable that we're going to have more retail here, and we who live here, we need more retail here. The place where I get a disconnect is large, multinational, global corporations who come in and essentially look the same and sell the same merchandise and then take their revenues, and yes, they pay into the tax base, but more of the money leaves than if there was another alternative of attracting retail, local retail, that would give people who live here what they need, that would provide jobs for people who live here, with more of those dollars staying in circulation in the local economy, so that in the long run, our economic basis in this county is improved. In the short run, we all know, we all think about, we all see all those big box stores every time we drive out of the county. So that's the easy answer. But I wonder if we couldn't be more creative.
The question would be about more local businesses covering that. The problem with that, you know, unfortunately, like, go find an independent clothing store. They're a thing of the past. Go find an independent pharmacist. Pharmacies are going the same way. You know, in my business, independent electronics and appliance stores are getting shrinking. It's not growing in our market. We're gaining our market share, but you know, for sale wise, but it's a shrinking market because everything is shifting to the large format retailers. I don't know if a guy can open a store, if someone can open a store up and be successful and buy it because he can't buy the clothes right. You know, or vice versa. Ma'am?
Yes, my name is Susan. I have a little independent bookstore up in Murphy's. And there are independent clothing stores up there, and they're making it. And you are an independent book, or independent retailer, and you're making it. So
But
it does happen.
It does happen, but it's
exist.
shrinking.
Well, it's shrinking, but this is where we come in and we say, hey, it can be done. I just wanted to add to the little woman's comments that for every $100 the consumer spends, local businesses give back $68 to the local economy. Chain stores give back 43. So that's a little bit of a stat from an Andersonville study by the Civic Economics Group. And that can be found online. A lot of these studies have been done, independent businesses versus big, huge corporate chain stores, and your money stays in the local economy when it's independently owned, and it does not when it is not independently owned.
Correct.
It's something to ultimately consider. Thank you.
Sir?
My name is Bob Robertson, and I have several thoughts here. One, well, I'll chime in with what the lady said here. Our federal government, they always talking about giving tax breaks to the small business person, because that's what really turns the wheel in the United States of America, not the big corporates. And like she says, you really need to think about this. Where I come from in the Bay Area, they're going back to small stores like we have here, and they're doing it in a small scale. They're doing one street at a time, or maybe a quart of stores. You can see that in Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill, many other little towns. On a small scale, this doesn't attack their sewer system, water. It's a very slow process, and everybody loves it. Guess what's right next door to them? The older stores. So they don't go broke. They're actually prospering from it. Excuse me. The other thing that I would like to see this area, I've been 37 years in the sanitary business in the Bay Area, and we're a huge district. We have one treatment plant that takes care of Orinda, all of Danville, circles around Concord, on Martinez. We've done this with lift stations. We have federal grant money, and we're able to hire skilled engineers. And there's one board that rules this. It's through taxpayers. What I see here, we should start linking up all these cities. You're on a downhill system here. And I've heard a lot of talk on growth, but I haven't heard about our water, our sewer, our schools. When I come in from Antioch, I lived most of my life there. When I went to high school, it was 18,000, and now it's well over 100,000. The planning commission there thought, well, we want homes and actually help run out industry. We were all on the river there, which is probably a good thing, but I feel they did it too fast, and they created a bedroom community. And so what happened now is, with no planning, my wife taught there 35 years, and the school's going to keep up. It's a disaster right now. A lot of robbery. You're not safe. You have a lot of homes that's been repossessed. I came here. I moved there. I bought in '89, and I tried to get my family here. I was already 17 years in my job. My wife was about the same. There was no jobs here. There's still no jobs here, really. You're not going to get a family with children to come up here. You're not going to be able to support these big stores. And, my thought is, and I've heard Kim Church say this, create jobs where the people go back home, and I love that. And what he meant by that is small farms. And we can keep our ground, our land, and again, those people, another source we have here, retirement. We have all the baby boomers coming in. Let's zero in on that. Low volume of people, and they need lots of care, creates lots of jobs. That's about it.
Good point. Part of that is we have, believe it or not, they have looked at tying all the sewer systems together. You know, but that's a bunch of different agencies trying to work together, because you have CCWD, you have Murphy's Utilities, you have a bunch of different independent, you know, the City of Angels looking at stuff, but that's the only way it's going to be economical with the state regulations on wastewater. But it has been thought of, I think it's been talked about, that's as far as, and it's kind of like this, it's just talked about. I mean, that's what we're trying to come up with ways. But on the other part of it is, you know, I don't want big retail from a personal standpoint. You know, that's why we, you know, we're trying to come up with some guidelines. But, you know, to get people to move here, do you have, you know, you put the cart before the horse or the horse before the cart? I mean, you know, when you have the retailers and the other jobs follow suit, there's more family sustaining, or you have those guys come up here with family sustaining jobs, and you have to supply the retail to justify using them, or having them be here.
But if you don't have your infrastructure in, you can't.
And you're right, the infrastructure, and that's part of the,
And
you know,
we're not
the
talking about
guidelines.
that, we're just talking about massive development, which is trouble.
Yeah.
It's big trouble. You'll never catch up. Look at your other towns. Maybe you should go to other meetings in other towns and listen to their problems. I know, I've been in construction for years, and I see cities make the same mistakes, and they learn the same way by mistake. Where there should be one big book that these cities could pull out and say, this is what we do, here's a master plan. But also, if I could back up a little bit, and I know it might not be the right time, but I know there's somebody else in this room that feels like as a homeowner, I can buy what is the word? Lights that turn off and on. And my thought is instead of worrying about the lights pointing down for night pollution, and I've talked this up a lot, and I found out there's somebody else in this room that feels the same thing, is to put a timer on them, say they all go off at 1 o'clock. And then a motion detector will trip them back on. They have now with it for homeowners, but we don't do it in the cities, a soft light where it uses half the power. And if there's nothing going on, the light totally goes out. That will also help law enforcement or anybody else that's doing something wrong, you know, right where they're at. And used car lots, it just goes on and on. And nobody talks about that. And also your solar in your plant. I didn't hear anything on solar. And to lean on the federal government for brakes.
That's part of the LEED program, was in there. The LEED factors are in there. That's part of that. LEED design is energy efficiency products throughout the construction of the business, or the buildings.
But I didn't hear it mentioned, maybe I was stripped it off.
Well, I didn't mention specifically, but LEED, that's part of the LEED issue.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Bob, can I make one final comment?
One quick comment.
Sure. One of the things that I did hear you say is that there's one location right now in the city, but there are others they're looking at in the county, correct?
Yeah, there's a whole effort now between, and that's that whole ongoing dialogue between the county board of supervisors and the city council to look at economic development on a regional basis. And our region is the county, including the city of Angels. So we expect in the future, and part of what came out of the economic summit is to move forward on a lot of these initiatives. Going green, of course, is one that the city of Angels has talked about initially, and we think that'll get some movement as well.
Right, and the other thing was the grandfather clause. I just wanted to bring that up, that is a possibility for current merchants, because I know we do have a grandfather clause in effect.
Difficult, but not impossible. It would have to be part of a more comprehensive program, and that'll actually be reflected in the new general plan update.
Okay, and then my final question was that I know this is a first revision draft plan. How does the community get involved in their comments to you, to people like this gentleman here, to express his viewpoint so that his viewpoint is drafted into a potential final draft plan?
Right, thank you. That's a good way to end the program. If you want to give us your specific comments, you can go to the city website, angelscamp.gov. Tim's email's there, mine is there. You can give us your comments in writing, or give us a call and we'd be glad to chat with you. Again, we will probably be looking at 2 or 3 or 4 other interest groups to do the presentation and get their input. So you have time. We're not under any time constraints here, immediate time constraints, and want to get as much input as we can. The panelists will be here to chat with.
I had some comments.
Yes. If the president says you can, you can.
We usually try to end about this time, and if I would prefer, would you do that privately, or would you rather do this publicly?
I can submit my written comments, which we prepared. I do have some general comments, which I'd just like to share with the group, because I've heard many questions and I think I can address and then take your
And we can give just 2 minutes, because I really do have to wrap up. Would you like to stand so people can hear you?
My name is Fred Katz. We are shopping center developers. I've developed shopping centers for more than 30 years in smaller communities throughout Northern California. We've developed the Long Center here in Angels Camp, the Raleigh Center in Jackson, and the Lucky Long Center in Jackson. Some of the comments that I heard tonight, I'd just like to comment on any type of shopping center, be it a supermarket anchored center or a large format center, has to go through an exhaustive environmental review process. So all of the questions about employees, about the net impact to the city, fiscal impact analysis, socioeconomic analysis, wetlands analysis, traffic analysis, all of those things will be addressed in studies that can be required through the California Environmental Quality Act process for any project that's proposed. So I think all of the big picture questions can be dealt with in detail. You can find out if it's a Target, if it's a Raley's, if it's a whatever, what the net benefit to the community would be in sales tax, in jobs, in housing, whatever. So a lot of that stuff will be covered, or all of that stuff can be covered through the EIR process for a specific project. This specific proposal, did come up with, which I think is great, and it's beneficial for every community. There are a few things in here that pretty much prohibit a large format store. The proposal to have residences above a large format store in Angels Camp, that will prohibit a large format store. There are a few things like that. The requirement for the typical landscape requirement in the most severe community that we've been in is 1 tree per 10 spaces. This proposal is 4 trees per 10 spaces, so that's 400% worse than anything.
What's worse about trees?
If that is imposed, it should be a universal imposition on all commercial development.
I think you all want a shopping center that looks like the one up there in Center Creek.
No.
On the route, right? Because that's not what you're describing in this. And I want to go on the side of some of the people here. I just think, I hate the idea of all new traffic. And I've developed shopping centers for years, and you just can't do it in a pretty way. And you're going to have large acreages of shopping, you're going to have flat roofs, and it's going to change the character of this area that we all came to. And the shopping centers that you're talking about have the large expanses of asphalt. You do have the flat roof, you do have the front spaces that are flat, and they're not like you're talking about. So what worries me is that what you're doing is presenting this like it's already going to come, and these are the guidelines that we're going to have, which means we've accepted the fact that it's going to be here, and I'm not sure that this community has accepted
look up. See that truck. So,
The architectural guidelines that were proposed, we have no issue with. We are seeing all of the stores meet those types of guidelines because those are the types of guidelines that communities are imposing. So I think architecturally, the mountain style, those things are realistic. But there's a few things, not to like my comments, that would just make it impossible. So if the guidelines are intended to make it impossible, then that's fine. And if the guidelines are intended to get the best product you possibly can, then I think some changes are made. Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly feel free, we have to close now, but certainly feel free to have a drink at the bar, just come up and give your comments to Bruce and Bob and Henry. And we hope that you will mark your calendars for Monday, August the 11th, when you will have a chance to talk with the chief of police. And thank you all very much for coming, and thank you to our